Hey there, just a quick reminder we have a mentorship program if you're looking for personalized coaching and mentorship to help guide you to the next level of your interior design business, whatever that might look like for you, whether it's processes and procedures or what services to offer to how to incorporate wellness, intention, or spirituality into your projects. Come join us over at designcoven.com/join. Or if you're just in search to connect with other like-minded interior designers, you can join our free community, also located at designcoven.com/join. Hey there. In today's episode, I had the honor and privilege of having a dear friend of mine join me as we talk about ritual. We talk about tea and just reminiscing about how we met and their journey in their business. We have Amy Trung of Paru Tea joining us today. Amy has a degree in international business from UC Irvine and a decade of working in consulting, tech, and wellness. Amy took the leap and started Paru in 2017. The idea quickly grew from a pop-up with tea educational workshops to a full-time business, operating both locations in-store and online. In addition to leading the team, Amy serves as a primary tea educator, buyer, and master blender. She enjoys working with her hands, creating nostalgia-inspired teas like Blue Chamomile and Pandan Waffle. If you have not visited her shop, it is one of the most magical places I've ever been. It's been created with divine intention. It's so clean, so beautiful, and it really just highlights the tea and the work and love that goes into the space. It's definitely something to experience, and you can also experience her teas online. She does ship her teas out. I hope you enjoy this beautiful episode as we connect over tea. You're listening to the Holistic Interior Design Podcast. This is a podcast that guides you as a new or inspiring independent interior designer navigating your entrepreneurial path. Here, with my over 20 years experience, I will share my holistic approach to design with intention and ancient practices, including Feng Shui, all incorporating mind, body, and spirit into my design projects. You will also learn from seasoned interior designers as they give strategies and insight of how they built their businesses and continue to work in the field. Together, we will discover supportive trade partners, new ideas, creatives, and inspiring artists from around the world. I am your host, Rachel Lorraine Crawford. Welcome back to Bewitching the Home, episode 4, with Amy of Paru Tea. Before we get started, I would like to go ahead and ring her bell, light a candle, and then pull a card for our session together, our conversation, and then we'll get into some tea. So let's go ahead and just center in wherever you are. We've got a beautiful candle here for us, just to invite the element of spirit and fire into our space. And then today, I'm so excited because I have cards by Flora Tarot, and all of her cards are plants, which we're going to be diving into plants today with Amy. So I thought it would be a beautiful way to combine all of these beautiful spirits. So I will pull a card from here. They're just really beautiful florals and plant medicine that we get to connect to. So for our session and for anyone that is listening, I'm going to pull the cards right side up as I always do. And we have the 3 of Wands. And Three of Wands is the card of vision. It's the card of expansion. So it's really about the vision, the overall grand scheme of all the things at the end of everything. Like, where are we going at the end of it all? So it's about dreaming big. We are in Pisces season while we are filming this and taping this, recording the video. So this is dreaming. This is expansion, and going big with this beautiful fire element of the Three of Wands. Love it. And I always think of like big visions with Amy because she's always got the most amazing things happening. So welcome, Amy, to the Bewitching the Home. I'm so excited to have you.
Well, thank you so much, Rachel. So excited to be here.
Yeah. And of course, Amy is my beloved tea of choice. I have all of her teas on all of my episodes. She's like, she doesn't know. I'm just telling her I've adopted her as my my tea brand. So Amy, what are you drinking over there?
Oh, so since today was we were just chatting, waking up to the rain, I thought I was craving like a ginger tea, and then so I'm drinking our ingot blend that we actually created for Filipino American History Month. It uses a ginger from the Philippines. I don't know if I ever had to try it, Rachel, but
no, that's amazing. Since I'm half Filipino, this is really cool.
Yeah, it's just a really nice, like, warming blend. It's inspired by my mother-in-law, actually, because every time she would come over, or if we leave visiting her house, she would say, "Ingat, ingat," just take care. And then she would always bring over some sort of like ginger tea, like, for us. So we kind of created our own version of that. And whenever it's kind of a little bit cold or cozy, I always pull it out and drink it. So it feels really warming.
I love that you said that. I remember my mom would always make ginger tea for us when, whenever our throats were sore, or if we didn't feel good, she'd always like be up there just doing the ginger and making the tea. And I remember just being like, oh my God.
Yeah, it's real warming. And I think, like, in the Philippines overall, like, ginger is like the tea of choice too, and I just find that so warming too, because it's just so good for you.
Yeah, most definitely. Oh, I'm so glad that you did that. That's really cool. So this morning when I was going through all my teas, I was like, oh, I've got Amy coming on. What am I going to do? And I pulled out the subscription box for, is it February? It was February.
Yeah.
And there was one called Dragon's Pearl. And I was like, what is this? It's a blooming tea. And I need to know more about this. I see that it's a combination of green tea, jasmine blossoms, marigold, and what is this other one? Amaranth?
Yeah.
Amaranth. So this is what it looks like.
It's beautiful.
It's insanely gorgeous. Yeah, it's insane. It's absolutely stunning. So tell me, how do they make this? Because it's all been like woven together. There's major artisan magic in this tea.
Yeah, so each blooming flower is hand woven. So they dry out some long dried green tea, like silver needle green tea, and make it flat. And then they weave it with a string, and then they have like different dried florals, which we were just naming off, like the chrysanthemum, jasmine, amaranth inside, to make certain designs like in there, and very intricate, because there are different types of blooms that will occur depending on the pattern. So the Dragon's Pearl is actually one of my favorite ones, because it's supposed to have like two little pearls that'll shoot up in your teapot. And you have the perfect teapot to brew it.
Yeah, and you can get these beautiful tea wares at your shop, which is where I got these.
Yeah, it's super easy to make tea, so I'm so happy you're doing that, because that one's usually, I love brewing the blooming flower for like special like celebratory occasions and sharing it. and entertaining guests. So
Yeah, and that's exactly what this is. Ah, yeah, and it's like really delicate and soft, and it's just like a really pretty tea.
yeah, a great way to wake up the morning, I think.
Yes, absolutely. And I've just been using your teas to calm myself and to center, and that's what I think is really beautiful about what you create. And speaking of, I always ask, about home. So what does home look like for you right now? How is that?
Actually, I was just thinking right when I was like waking up, I was like, oh, this is nice to kind of start out the day
Mm-hmm.
with your podcast because seldom I am just at home in the mornings because I'm going out to work and making sure like everything's prepped. I was thinking, I was like, oh, maybe I should do the podcast at Paru, but I was like, oh, I think there's just a nice warming experience of
Mm-hmm.
being able to, take this podcast at home because I do like a lot of virtual tastings too. So then that feels like I'm online and doing at the shop. But this felt really nice to be at home and be well. On my lap here, I have Benji. He's definitely I would say a decoration in the home.
Yeah, he is. He's a beautiful home spirit.
he, he matches the couch and the pillows perfectly.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So
And,
beautiful.
yeah, and I think yeah, home right now has just been really centering for us. I mean, Lonnie and I have
Mm.
been so busy going in and out, but whenever we're at home, I feel like we've taken more of an appreciation to it, and having a clean home is also really important to us.
Yeah, and your home is so special, and I've been there several times, and each time you go
You
into
made it
Amy's home.
special.
Yeah, we did a beautiful blessing, but every time I go there, it's like you guys are always bringing me these beautiful teas, and Lonnie's like making cookies. It's just like, oh my God.
Oh, I forgot about those. Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
And then like a lot of times your family's there, so it's just everyone's
Mm,
just
I think you
so,
met both of our families. Yeah, you met
yeah.
my mother-in-law.
I met them all.
And my mom met my mom too. They're both
Yeah.
very, I would say, strong women.
Yeah. Which is amazing. And they just have so,
Oh,
and
my
I can
mom
just,
can't stop talking about you, Rachel. Every time I visit her, she's like, "How's Rachel?" And then she'll talk about
oh,
her crystals, and she dreams of having like a crystal shop someday too. And I mean, her
yes.
collection is really vast. Anytime, if you're ever down in Torrance, I feel like you
Oh,
guys
I need to
you
make a
should visit
trip.
her house. Yeah,
Yeah, I would love
she
to
has
visit
a
her.
huge collection, but I think you
Yeah,
enjoy seeing it.
she needs a crystal shop for sure. And then she can serve your tea.
Yeah. She said
Ugh,
that's her retirement plans. I don't.
okay. So when is she retiring? So I can put it on my calendar and
Well, she's like a workaholic. She's a
yeah.
Capricorn, so
Okay.
she's kind of like,
So she's never
she's been,
retiring.
yeah, she's never retired. She's been at her job for over like 30 years now.
Mm.
But I think definitely probably within five
Yeah.
years or something.
Oh my God, that'd be amazing. I love it. So yeah, and then I would love to just, share with everybody how we connected, because I feel like that in itself is a beautiful, just coincidental, like everything was in alignment. And I don't know if you remember,
Oh,
but it was,
yes.
but it was back in
Yeah.
like, when was that? I think it was like maybe 2018 when we did that event together, and I was pulling cards for the circle, and I remember going in the back, and then you had your tea back there, you had the
Mhm.
blue chamomile, and you had another one, and they were like, I think they were the cold teas, and
Oh
um
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Girl,
yeah,
hello.
yeah. And that was when I met Charlene and Enrique from Studio
Yeah,
Lunis.
yeah.
Yeah, so it was just like
Well,
we'd collaborated when we first met, and then we're still like doing stuff.
oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, yeah, I remember going to those. I mean, just starting out too. I think it was like, well, early like 2017. There's like a lot of like meetup groups and stuff. So
Yeah.
everyone's also like figuring out like their way, which is interesting. I was just trying to it was funny because I feel like I was never an attendee. I always wanted to like showcase things, just kind of like you two being like more than just being like involved in things.
Hmm.
I always kept hearing the name Rachel Lorraine, and then of course you're just like such a beautiful energy. And it's like, oh, that's when you actually when we finally introduced ourselves. It's like, oh, you're Rachel, um, and then I think we decided to like meet up after with like Charlene or something
Yeah.
too, when we're because you were doing like like working with them as well too, right?
Yeah, well, that was the first time I met them, and she's like, "I'm gonna take photos of the event," and I was like, "Oh, this is amazing. Okay, perfect." And then she was like, and Enrique's like, "Oh my God." But it was just fun. It was just like, and then Charlene had reached out to me, I think like a month later for like the woman, like March, which was women's
Oh yeah.
thing. She was doing like this series of creating photos, and she asked me to do some photos, and I was so honored. And I think we just kept talking, and then you and Charlene and Enrique got that space together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was really like just a nice. It wasn't even a coincidence, but very serendipitous, like in a
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. And then
Because that was just within that week we both were looking for something, and then Charlie, you came in after to bless the space too.
Yeah, and then they're
But I
like, "Oh,
mean,
come
Rachel
over."
too. Yeah,
Yeah, I remember
because we
that
both.
space.
Yeah, so it's because we both. I mean, we only knew each other for like a week or so, but it just felt like a nice connection. But we're like, wait, we need to really make this a good connection because it's both of our starting businesses. Really, let's bring Rachel in.
I didn't realize you guys didn't know each other very long before you got a space together.
Yeah, no, it was just within that week because I was looking, and then I think I met up with them for coffee, and because they wanted to, we wanted to work with each other, but I mentioned that, and then they were into it, and we're like, we don't know each other very well, but it feels right. Like it
Oh
could
my
be really
God.
great or really bad, but it would just turn out really great. I mean, it's just
Oh my
like
God,
they're
that's
like one
so
of my
funny.
friends.
That's
I
so
would
funny.
say.
And then I
Yeah.
remember us, yeah, like all standing, four of us together, and we're pulling cards. And I remember being like, "Oh my God, you're fire, Charlene's earth, Enrique's water, and then I'm air." And we were like, "We got the
Yeah.
four elements." We were like geeking
Yeah.
out over that.
We all pushed each other to do something right.
Yeah, yeah. And you guys weren't there very long. How long were you there before you got the space in Point Loma?
It was a year. So it was
Mm.
exactly a year. I mean, no, it was never any permanent space by any means, but I think we needed to work outside of our home.
Yes. So tell me about that, because that's a whole thing that I feel like people have had to like work from home, do things there, and then now I feel like we're all feeling like, oh my God, I got to get out of my house. And so that's really what made you guys move out, get into a space that's more outside of your home, because and at that time you were doing more pop-up things, right?
Yeah. So, during that time, yeah, I was solely just, like booking like events, as many as I could, but thoughtful ones, not just,
Hmm.
things I didn't think would fit. But, um, I think I got to the point with like, starting my like online shop, and I was like, oh, I really need a dedicated space home. I actually at that time, Lonnie and I, we just moved in together in San Diego, and we're just sharing a studio in Bakersfield with Benji here, and it was really really crowded as just like a studio apartment. But for some reason the kitchen was fairly large, so I kind of made a space there. But as I was doing more and more things, I was like, I really have to separate home and work because I want to come home to a more comforting place. I don't want to be reminded of work.
Hmm.
So that was, I mean, I really worked up to that point of being able to, afford like a place, and that's where we both, Charlene and Enrique, both at least like splitting it was like really helpful.
Yeah.
Creating space like with each other, and we both have our own separate places in that office space. But yeah, I think that was really important to create that division of home and work.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was more fluid of like, okay, this is the time.
Yeah, and I think you were really smart about creating a space with somebody else so that it kind of relieved the pressure of having to come up with the rent every month and having someone that you
Mhm.
can connect with. And then also you guys were very intentional about like the space in itself and also creating boundaries in the space, but also being
Right.
able to infuse each other's energy. And like you guys would I just remember going there and you guys would connect and like, your energy was all together was just so synergizing and uplifting. And it was like you created like this beautiful support system
Hmm.
within that space. And then when people came in, I felt like they were like being introduced to them. And then when their people came in, they were, being
Mhm.
introduced to your tea. And then you started doing tastings in that space. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because yeah, that space, I don't know, it was actually, I mean, it wasn't the most beautiful space. It was very office-like,
Yeah.
so different from both of our places now. But so I had my own office and they had their own office, and then we had a common room area. And the common room area was used for um yeah, tastings I did, but very, maybe like once a week. But then people started coming there. They're like, "Oh, I heard, I looked up and there was like a tea shop here." It was definitely not set up for as a tea shop, but I think as time passed and within that like 1 year mark, it really was really encouraging because, like you said, it was nice feeling like support from all different levels because, when you were first starting just as a entrepreneur business, it could get really lonely too. And at the
Hmm.
time, Bonnie didn't fully join Paru, and she was always helping, um, like as a partner, but she also had like a full-time job too. So I was like, oh, well, she was gracious enough to keep working as with her full-time job, and then for me to kind of test the waters and see how far this idea of Paru like could go. It was yeah, it was all support systems from like all fronts. So the
Absolutely.
first year was very delicate. First
Yes.
2 years.
Yeah. So tell me the intention behind Paru and how this idea came to be and what does Paru mean?
Mm. So Paru, just like living, like before now, just thinking back, was like before Paru, um, Lonnie and I, we both lived in Japan overseas. So it was a really, I would say, eye-opening to kind of immerse in like different like tea culture. And it's not even just tea culture, it's the culture there, just to
Mm.
um, have tea, invite guests over, and that's just like a really hospitable thing to do. And people don't think twice about it. Sometimes when you bring out tea here, everyone's like, "Oh, you're getting so fancy, right?" But now it's tea in like other places, especially in Asia. It's just the almost like the way of life, and it's considered like a um, a practice and a skill set to do, almost like martial arts. And I was just incredibly mesmerized by that because I never thought I was like, oh, pouring tea, that's a skill um, or a practice you have to learn like your whole life. Because like when you're thinking of like karate, of course you'll see like more like action based things, and you can see how you can work up your way to it. But I think I was like really fascinated by that, and also just growing up. We were talking about my mom. She's a big tea drinker, and I think that was something that I just inherently um, felt just like a deep appreciation with at like a young age too, just learning about the different herbs. And that's why I was always so excited creating different like blends for you, Rachel, with different like new moons and astrology signs, and just
Oh,
learning about how
yes.
different contribute to the overall taste and look of the blend. So um, and just moving to San Diego, I thought there was a big um, non-existent community of tea, especially
Yeah.
when San Diego's just so well known for like a lot of beautiful like food and beverage.
Hmm.
Such a large like food and beverage like industry too, and then we have like Michelin star restaurants, but I think craft tea was like a missing piece. So that's why with the pop-ups started to to bring it in and see what people thought of it. And um, I think I maybe told you before, but when I had my very first pop-up at the courtyard in downtown San Diego,
Oh yeah.
um, you know, that's a major like outdoor like park area, and there was like, beer brewing too. And then I think it was like one of their last events before they closed, but I was like, okay, let me just give this a try. I'm just gonna serve some tea, and if there was one customer that comes, I was like, oh yeah, I guess it was like a successful event.
Yeah.
And I just did minimal like posting on social media and Instagram, and there was actually quite a bit of people that came, and they were very interested in tea, and that was just really encouraging. I probably made less than $50 that day, but it was great.
But I think you opened a door to this whole other culture and a new craft that, we're totally missing. It's the brew industry of beer is huge here, but we definitely don't have the artisan teas that I think we might not even known like we're missing out on, and you've created that for us. And then also you mentioning the moon circles. I forgot to say that, yeah, we collaborated when you got your second location in Point Loma, and you were also sharing it with Charlene and Enrique, and we all together did new moon and full moon circles there. And we would talk about what is this moon energy and what's the zodiac sign that it's in. And then Amy pulled all these beautiful herbs together. And then in circle, we all set intention into the herbs, and every person before COVID was dipping the herbs into the teapot, and we would brew, and it was just an amazing experience. And I still have a lot of those teas because we also created ritual boxes after, like in 2020 with me and Carly, and so I still have a lot of those teas, and they're very special. And I just go to my tea box, my drawers. I have a couple of drawers of all of your teas, and I just go in and feel into like what wants to connect with me today. And that's how I pick my teas, and it's so magical having you there. It's this magical tea box.
Oh my gosh. No, you created such a wonderful space, and everyone still brings it up like, what are we having moon circle?
I know we needed we could do like, maybe we could do like a seasonal thing or something. But tell me about, and then you just opened this new shop in La Jolla, which is absolutely stunning.
Yes.
Absolutely stunning.
Yes.
Tell me
Thank
about
you so much
that.
for being a huge part of it, Rachel, too. We launched our Kickstarter last March, and thank you again, Rachel, for being like a backer too.
Of course.
It was just a wonderful support like in the community too, and I think that was like a huge part of making the space so special too, because everyone contributed to us opening it. And in a place like La Jolla too, I think a lot of people wonder like, why do we choose like La Jolla for our flagship location? I mean, logistically, we would like to be like a little bit like up north, since the Point Loma store is a little bit down south. But I think it was I think the space felt right in itself too, because I don't know, for some reason, and you can tell me, Rachel, too. It's like I'm like drawn like by the water, maybe because I have a Pisces mood. But with Point Loma, it's by the harbor. La Jolla is by like the beach, and I don't know, these two echoing like elements of it felt just, I don't know, just right for like the shop.
And you're working with tea, so there's more water. You're just all up in this water energy.
And we just opened in November, and it was insane to, I mean, come to that point, because obviously all the prep work and the construction. Rachel, you know all about this. It was like we were so lucky to work with also Miki Iwasaki and his team too, because they did such an incredible job of just putting the space like together and
Yeah.
just honoring the vision of Paru as like a like a minimal like community space, but also making it feel special without um with the detail of it and not
Hmm.
so many different. I mean, it only has like 1-2 colors like in
It's
there,
absolutely
but
stunning. I was just gonna say it really highlights like the tea itself. It's like the tea is
mm,
the showcase, and then you just got this beautiful machine. Tell me about this matcha.
oh yeah. Yeah, so one of the things that, again, true to what our mission in the beginning is bringing more craft tea to. I mean, starting in a place like San Diego is our stone mill matcha, where we grind fresh matcha like on site, and we're the first tea company in California to actually do so, and there's only a few across the U.S. But that was just um, no, it's like most of people's like first time, unless they've been to like Japan and like certain places. This is the first time everyone's seen like a stone mill matcha machine. This was custom built for us, and I think that was not only wanting to have a more, I don't know, fresh experience of being able to freshly grind your matcha, but even more than that, it's or we were talking before, there's a lot of great coffee roasteries here, a lot of beer breweries, and they have really, really expensive equipment too to
Hmm.
showcase what their beverage can do. And I think for tea, usually people think it's just like, oh, hot water, but there's just so many different things that can go into tea. And for us to make this investment and really be able to show the power of tea, I think that was like a really, really proud moment for us too.
Yeah, and has that always been a dream of yours to have this machine in your space?
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think um again, it just kind of fits also like seamlessly in the background, but when you walk in, you're like, whoa, what is that? And I think um that is just like one of many things that we really want to bring, that we don't like compromise on like inequality,
Hmm.
and be really able to showcase and educate people. I think that's also a really important part. Like we do really thorough training with our teams to make sure that each and every person that walks in, not only do they get a tea, a tea bag or to get some loose leaf tea to prepare at the house, or even just grab like a drink, they're also coming out with a piece of like knowledge or a little bit of something that they didn't know about tea when they walk out of Paru.
Yeah, and just going back to the space, I would love for you to describe, the intention behind it as far as like what were the feelings that you wanted to invoke when people walk into the space and and the experience that they wanted to feel, because the space is it's designed so intentionally, and with every finish that's in there, you can tell there's the craftsmanship of like even the live edge bar that Mickey, had created, and the wood detail and the color palette.
I guess the feeling when we were first thinking of design of it, we wanted to echo the elements at Point Loma, but have it to be it's like more this I guess like a little bit of more elevated version, because we have more, almost triple the space to play with.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, so that was important to us to have certain elements, kind of small details of like matching kind of like the flooring. We had to do the flooring like twice because the first time it wasn't light enough, so it
Yeah.
would kind of offset the colors of it. Um, and the maple slab that when you first enter, we have the same maple slab at Point Loma, and we wanted to kind of be playful with that piece too, to when you enter it and be like, oh, that's actually something that I saw if they've been to the Point Loma shop. And then I think the feeling that we wanted anyone to walk in, just a sense of um, calmness. I think
Hmm.
like almost like a safe space, but also, what was important to me was feeling like you're somewhere else, not in San Diego.
Mm.
During like in COVID, I mean, I don't think anyone really traveled, right? So
Yeah.
being into going into Paru, we actually have no signage at all
Yeah.
that says you're at Paru. So we kept that minimal, so you have to find us.
Yes.
But luckily we have like these like beautiful like large windows that you can
Hmm.
kind of see the display, and then entering in, um yeah, you're kind of have to, you feel like you're taking like somewhere else, and almost like somewhere, either somewhere like Southeast Asia,
Hmm.
since we're gonna focus on like Southeast Asian teas, with a blend of like Japanese minimal like aesthetic too, where that screen door just kind of rolls across seamlessly
Yeah.
in the background. But that's like one of the most detailed work ever to build that screen door. Um, and I think a lot of people were missing that feeling of traveling and being kind of almost like you stumbled upon something that you can't wait to tell your friends, but you also kind of wanted to keep it a secret too.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like the kind of the feeling that we wanted to have it at Paru.
Yeah, well, I think you nailed it because I was doing a tasting with Seven Caves Spirits a while back, and the founder there, Jeff, and we connected, and we didn't realize that we knew you. And he was like, "Oh my
Mhm.
gosh, Amy!" And he's like, "Every time I go in there, I feel like I've traveled. That I have gone to Asia, and I'm in one of
Mhm.
those tea shops because he did
Oh,
go to
yeah.
those spaces, and he
Mhm.
was like,
Yeah.
I feel like I've been transported, and when I go in there, it reminds me of those times when I was there and I was able to, have a beautiful cup of tea." So I'm just going to say that you totally nailed it with, that intention, because it's like no other place except, but it has that feeling that you've been there if you've traveled, which is really, really incredible. And speaking of, I know you do a lot of collaborations, and I do
Oh my gosh,
have
yes.
the Seven Caves Paru
Oh
Tea
my god.
collaboration.
I love that one so much.
Yeah, the jasmine tea rum. So tell me how, like, and you've collaborated with Modern Times. Like, how do these collaborations come to be?
I think, well, especially with Seven Caves, it was one of those things where, and I'm happy that you mentioned Modern Times, because originally with like Modern Times, we had a special like coffee blend with them, but with one of the staff members at Modern Times, I was asking him if they had like rum barrels, but they have huge rum barrels to make like aged beer and aged coffee. I think at that time when we were at the small office space,
Hmm.
I don't think I was like able to have like like a 50-gallon like barrel. But I mean, San Diego, the community is so wonderful, and um, so like I guess everyone wants to like connect with one another, which I really appreciate in the small business community.
Hmm.
They actually referred to this guy, Jeff, in Seven Caves. So I was like, oh, cool. He's like in Mirror Mesa. I was kind of close to like the office, and then he was like, oh, but you just had to like email him and also figure it out. I was like, okay, and then so I looked it up, and then I shot off an email, and I think a few days later, like I heard back, um, and then I was telling him like what I was doing. He was like, "Okay, well, just like come over to the shop." And again, it seemed like really obscure too. I was like, "Okay, well, I don't have anything else. I'll just drop by the office." And this was the time where again, just figuring like things out. And then when I met Jeff, we were just like, yeah, we just like hit it off instantly. He was like a one-man show too, and it's probably still a one-man show to this day, and he wouldn't have it any other way because he's very similar to myself, where I was like, oh, I need to like control everything, and I have all these ideas, um, and it was just such a fun time talking to him. And he had the perfect barrels for me. There were like these what was it? It was like 5-gallon like barrels, and it was perfect to just start and experiment. And it Yeah, it's my favorite, like one of my favorite collaborations. And then I had a tasting with him too in our Point Loma shop, and he really loved the jasmine tea, and he had the idea for the jasmine rum. And yeah, it just went from there. So every time I either go to his place or he goes to ours, we just it's like kids in a candy shop.
Yeah, it's so fun. It's so fun. You love it. So what were you doing with these rum barrels? What were you making in them?
Oh yeah, so with I had an idea. So there's um I've come across a lot of like aged barrel like coffee beans. So they put the coffee beans in barrels after they've been emptied from like the rum. So I was like, oh, tea is very porous, it's really absorbent flavors. That's why when you're opening a tea bag, just make sure that it's not next to like any like strong smelling things, and make sure that it's closed. But on the flip side, it's really great if you want to absorb like a lot of flavors in there. I was like, oh, that's perfect for absorbing natural aroma um, from barrels that have been soaked in the oak from the rum. So I played with a few different types of teas, and they just come out so well, and it just keeps aging after years and years. Kind of like fine wine, like the longer it ages, the more robust and just so flavorful like it becomes. And I think I've done like 4 different teas now, and they sell out like each time. So the next batch I'm very excited for to pick up, probably maybe like later this year or toward end of early next year.
Amazing. So rad.
I'll definitely save you some.
Yes, please. I will pre-order and come over and grab some because that sounds amazing. You were just talking about tea and making sure that it's not next to something that has a strong aroma. Can you give us sort of like some tea 101? Like, what do we need to know about brewing loose leaf tea? Because that's what you're so well known for. And I think
Mhm.
people, who are so, especially in San Diego or wherever, like, we're used to like these little tea bags with like these grounded up like herbs, and you don't even know what is in there. And then you come to you and you've got these beautiful loose leaf teas where you can see like the plant. And then when the water touches it, it just like expands and opens up, and you can see like, the leaves and the flowers. And so can you give us sort of just some tips or tricks or things to make sure that we're brewing our teas correctly?
Yeah, absolutely. So, just like a quick tea 101, so we're talking about plants too. So, the technical term for tea, it comes from one plant called the Camellia sinensis plant. And from that plant, only 6 different tea types will come out from the plant. That's white tea, oolong tea, green tea, black tea. And those are the main teas that we've probably, drank like in most of our lifetime now. But there are 2 other teas too that are a little bit more rare, or some haven't heard of. So that's yellow tea. But yellow tea is predominantly produced in China, but it's becoming a little bit lesser well known because not a lot of tea producers are producing yellow tea nowadays. But that's almost like an in between a white and a green tea, the flavor profile. And then the other tea is an aged or fermented tea. It's called a pu'er tea. And those ones, when we see used in a lot of Chinese medicine, it's compressed in like a dish or like a cake. And those ones you'll sometimes, like if it's in the cake form, you'll break off and then brew it over 20 times or so. And it's, since it's aged or fermented, it has really great medicinal qualities for like the digestive system.
Wow.
And that's a really wonderful tea to have. So all those 6 different tea types will come from the Camellia sinensis plant, and from those 6 different tea types, there are different kinds of teas too. But if it doesn't fall under that branch, it's not considered like a tea.
Got it.
But for example, since I'm drinking a ginger tea right now, that's considered more of like a herbal infusion or tisane. But it doesn't have any like inherent like caffeine. Like tea, all the Camellia sinensis plants has caffeine in there. That's just done by Mother Nature to protect any from any insects. So if insects bite too much of the plant, the caffeine protects the tea leaves. So any like rooibos tea, like yerba mate, it's like considered just another type of infusion.
Wow.
So with that basis, if you're brewing or for example, any of those 6 different tea types, definitely need water. You need your tea vessel, whether it be a mug or a teapot. Um, and then loose leaf tea is really special in itself because with the term with like loose leaf tea, that's not considered to be like any tea bag. Oftentimes, when you're getting tea bags from the grocery store, you won't get as much flavor from it as when you're brewing loose leaf tea. I don't know if you also could tell like the difference too, Rachel, from brewing a tea bag from like loose leaf tea. Like you'll definitely get
Oh
more
yeah, it's
flavor.
so much more potent and
Mhm.
it just has a lot more flavor to it. I don't add anything in my teas at all.
Mhm.
Because I like to taste those flavors. But yeah, and then you can also rebrew
Mhm.
um the loose leaf. You have like another go at it, right? And then I feel
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that's
yeah.
in itself is a whole nother kind of flavor profile when you do the
Yeah.
second batch.
Yeah, it's like really because back before when I was brewing like tea packs, I was like, oh, I think I need 2 teas in here because I like there are two tea bags because I need it really strong. But literally with just maybe 1 tablespoon of like tea in like a 8 ounce like cup or something, you really can do like at least like three steepings, if not more. And then with oolong teas, you definitely the flavor profile gets better after like the fifth or the sixth steep. So
Wow. Yeah,
um
it's really
the
cool.
yeah, the teas in the tea bags, they come from the tea dust typically, so you don't get the actual whole leaf of the tea. So it's kind of almost like the sediments of the tea oftentimes. Um, and then there's like a lot of plastics in like the tea bags too when you're actually putting it in hot water. So there's such like a lot of benefits to loose leaf tea. And then after you're done with this, you can compost the tea too. Put it in the soil in your garden.
Yeah, I
Um,
totally do
make
that, and I also do that with, like, if I have leftover tea, that I didn't finish, I water my plants with it. I don't know if that's a good thing or a
Mhm.
bad
Oh
thing, but
yeah, yeah, yeah. Extra nutrients.
yeah, I think it's a good thing. I don't know why they wouldn't enjoy tea. We enjoy it, and then, yeah, and then composting all of the leaves and the waste, it's really cool because it's just going right back into nature, which is really rad. Um,
Yeah,
it's
and then
it's
the last part of it is just making sure that you have proper water, like using filtered water, not using tap water. I mean, water here in San Diego is a little bit more harsher with tap water with tea. Because if you think about it, there's only 2 ingredients in tea. It's just water and the loose leaf tea. So any of those factors can manipulate it too. And then if there's instructions on the tea bag on proper steeping methods, definitely worth to check out. Making sure you're not brewing your green tea with
Mhm.
boiling temperature too.
Yeah, your labels are perfect because it has the tea temperature, how long to steep it, like everything is there and it's so pretty and simple and clean and you really, thought of everything when you were creating your packaging, so it makes it so easy for people to understand. And it's not like
Oh, thank you.
intimidating. It's like anybody can create this, which is
Yeah.
really cool. I have a ritual with my boys, and if I'm making tea, I'll ask if they would like some tea, and
Oh,
oftentimes
oh my
they're
gosh.
yeah, they're always like yes, and then they get out their teacups, and we have like little clear
Oh,
cups, and um, yeah, and then I sometimes will have them like pick their own teas or what they're feeling, and then we have a nice little tea party. So
oh
thank you
my
for
gosh. That's so
yeah.
sweet. I love
Yeah.
that.
So, and
Thank
we
you
owe
for
that to
sharing
you for
too.
creating that sacred space of, again, slowing down, appreciating the
Mhm.
tea, tasting it in our mouths, and coming together as a family to do a ritual like this and being intentional about it. I think that's, a really neat gift that you've been able to give my family. And I know other people that come to you also have their own rituals, and you definitely have a beautiful following. And anytime I was in the shop, people would just come in and share with you, their stories and what, you've done for them. And I think it's just really neat that you've created such a supportive space for people to come in and feel welcomed and loved by all of it.
Well, thank you, Rachel. Well,
Yeah.
definitely owe it to you too for setting the clearing to make sure we off to a good start.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So I do have one of your subscription boxes, which again, the packaging, everything is so beautifully created. So I get a box of multiple teas every month. And then you've always got like art and then the tea aromas and tasting it so that you can write your own experience on the card and remember what you liked. It's almost like one of those notebooks that you keep on wine, right? It's like you've
Yeah.
created this for a tea, which is really beautiful. And then again, I get 3 teas, and then you always add like a bonus. And this is really cool because then we get to try something that we might not have otherwise tried. And this one here is lemongrass, and you made it for the Lunar New Year. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Oh my gosh, I think you really love lemongrass tea. It's just really soothing. We source that from a woman-owned tea farmer. She grows tea and also grows lemongrass too. And then that's just the most delicious lemongrass I ever tasted in Chiang Rai in Thailand.
Oh my gosh, I remember going there in Thailand. I think that was the first time I ever tried like green tea, and we went out to the tea
Oh my gosh.
fields. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
so magical, and it
Oh
was just
my
like
gosh.
these rolling hills of tea. And I remember we got to pick a little bit, and then we went back and they showed us how to actually make tea,
Oh
and I
my
had no
god.
idea that was like,
Oh,
you just think, oh,
beautiful.
you just pour water over it, and they're like, no, you got to steep it for this much, and we got to cover it, and everyone had their own little tea thing. It was just really cool.
Oh, love that. So you just
Yeah.
love how little things can transport you back to like fond memories,
Oh
right?
my gosh. Yeah, it was so magical in Thailand. And now I get to try more of that tea from there. So amazing. So Amy, what are you practicing right now as far as any rituals, or do you have any things that you go to get grounded or centered or reconnect with your higher self, or what are you loving right now in that realm?
Hmm. I think so. We used to work 7 days a week. We
Oh,
still do in some ways, but we do take Monday, Tuesday off. So the shop is closed on Monday, Tuesday. So that's our time to kind of regroup and take take time for ourselves. Um, so every Tuesday we actually do a Japanese tea practice, like a tea ceremony class, and it's about 2 to 3 hours, but we're just focusing on just kind of like practice and the skill of making matcha and holding a tea ceremony. And in traditional Japan, the tea ceremony is about like 4 to 5 hours, and very seldom that you actually get invited to those because the hosts and the guests actually have to practice and work their way up for it. But we've Lonnie and I, we do this together, but we go to this woman's house. She's been she's our pretty much our childhood like sensei, and we'll start with just like folding a cloth for probably like an hour and making sure that each and every single movement is exact and precise, and it's not something that you can practice and get good at overnight. Sometimes it'll take people years and 10 years to practice, and you're not allowed to have any jewelry on, any watch, leave all your phones like out the door, and it just feels so freeing even though you're just doing this for like hours. And then there's also different like vessels that we're learning, and I think that's been just really I don't know, it's funny because it feels like, oh, you're confined in doing all these things, but it also feels freeing to me.
wow. Oh my God. I had no idea. This is amazing.
Yeah, so we're doing that, and then afterwards, we actually the other part of it is that we've been going to the safari park
Oh, I've been
after
seeing that. I've
because
been
it's
seeing your
around
stories.
the area. Yeah, we got an annual member pass, but that helps us to be outside and look at other things, other animals, obviously. And I think that is like a sense of like playfulness for us too, but it's also a ritual because we're usually doing that every week. So we've been kind of enjoying Mother Nature and just seeing animals and appreciating them in that way. So that's
Yeah.
been our like ritual.
Oh my God. So now I know the backstory. So every time I see you guys there, I want to be like, oh, they just did like a beautiful ceremony.
No, but that's actually helped us to not be like, okay, we're sitting at home. We feel like we need to get on the computer and start working and all that. We're like, no, we have these passes. Let's just go and see. And, we don't spend the whole day there. It's just like an
Yeah.
hour. So it feels exciting every single time still to go visit, see if the line's awake. And
Oh my God.
yeah, and just little things like that. I think it also helps us, like, how we are also like business partners and we're married, and sometimes we just like work. We are, yeah, we're trying to kind of do things outside of that too. So that's
Oh,
part
it's
of
so
our
huge.
ritual thing together, and yeah, spending time to ourselves.
Unbelievable. That is so beautiful. I love it. And so what's brewing? What's coming up? What's next for Paru, and what are you guys envisioning?
Yeah, I mean, For in Peru we celebrate the season, so we just celebrated the Lunar New Year just like throughout February, and hopefully to continue out like the whole year because it is still the year with the tiger, and not forgetting about that too. I think in terms of seasons, we will be celebrating the spring season, which is like a very beautiful time for spring teas, renewal. Winter, all the Camilla sinensis plants were dormant and getting ready to kind of sprout in the spring, which I'm really excited for. Um, but I think I've learned just kind of throughout the years, each year we've done something different in a way where we've either grown the space, opened up a new space. I think what I'm excited for is actually being consistent at
Mm-hmm.
what we're doing now, not asking for too much more, but just keeping up the momentum of that and just really feeling content of where I guess Paru and myself is at too. And I
Yeah.
think that's really important to practice. That's why it's a ritual, right? You keep
Yeah.
practicing the same
Keep
thing.
practicing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've always looked for, what else can I do? What else can I do? But I think I'm so happy of like how everything's been coming to fruition. I want to nourish it and keep growing it in the same way as possible.
Hmm. And you're doing it. You guys are definitely, a wonder, and it's beautiful seeing you guys bloom and shift and evolve and creating these sacred spaces, which is so beautiful. And so, how can people find you? How can we follow you and support you and experience all these gorgeous things that you have to offer?
Oh, thank you. I mean, we love updating like just tea stories and stories on our Instagram. So it's just on Instagram, we're at Paru Tea. Just check out our selections on our website at parutea.com. And yeah, everything I feel like you can physically come to the shop too. We're open Wednesday through Sunday, 11 to 5. I think that's like a nice way to experience too.
Hmm.
And, a lot of times people come to either of the shops and then make a round to the next shop too. So that's kind of like a nice
Oh,
way
that's
to
so
experience
cool.
Euro because they're both like so different in like a good way too. So you can have two different versions, whether you're closer to the Point Loma shop or closer to La Jolla. I think it's always like a nice little adventure too.
Are you still offering your tea experiences with tastings and that sort of thing?
Yeah, yeah. So everything is you're able to book dates online to see when some of the booking reservations are like available. We do it through Wednesday through Sunday at two different times, so you can check that out on our website too.
Cool. And then do you ship worldwide, or is it just in the
Mhm.
US, or?
That's worldwide too.
Oh my God. Okay, amazing.
Mhm.
Yeah. So this podcast is gonna launch here shortly. In the spring. I was really intentional about having it kind of come out at that spring moment. And if you are in San
Perfect.
Diego, please save the date. I've got a physical in-person launch party at Yoga Deck, which is a space that I
Mm.
designed a while back. And we will definitely have tea from Paru, so you can taste the tea there as well. And that's happening on March 26th. 5 to 8 p.m. here in San Diego. And Amy, you're of course always invited, and I'll send out some more information.
Oh,
It's
thank you so
always such a
much.
beautiful honor. Oh my God, I just love everything that you guys are doing, and there's collaborations happening. So all of you stay tuned because there's some cool stuff that's brewing in our fields here. Thank you, Amy. I appreciate
Well,
you.
thank you, Rachel, again for having me. It's always such a, I don't know, just to be in your presence is just so
Mm,
energizing. So thank you for sharing
of
and,
course.
sharing your work and your craft too.
Absolutely. You've been listening to the Holistic Interior Design Podcast. If it's one that you have been enjoying, please share with anyone else that you think can benefit from this knowledge, and leave us a 5-star review that helps us get seen and found by other new and aspiring interior designers. And if you're looking for mentorship, I invite you to join our club here at the Design Coven. It's a bridge between school and real life interior design. We get in much deeper there. We have virtual and in-person events. So everyone is welcome. You don't need to have a design degree to be part of it, just an interest in holistic interior design. I also want to thank our editor, Marcy Ferry, and lastly, Kinseth Thibodeau, who is our music composer. Until next time, be well, and we will see each other soon.